What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Wednesday edition of the Stokastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. We are sponsored by BetMGM, as always. Don't know what day it is, need a haircut, need a shave. It's one of those days. I think it has something to do with last night. Joining me, as always, Slim Cliffy. How you doing?
Not too bad, man. Yeah, I'm with you. I need a haircut and a shave. It's caught in a weird place with the haircut thing because I usually get one like once a month. I got my last one. I think it was right around Remembrance Day, November 11th. So like I'm due for one now, but I want to get one a little bit closer to Christmas for like Christmas, get-togethers and all that. So I'm just kind of struggling with hair that shouldn't be there right now, which is weird to say because hair keeps disappearing from the top of my head with each passing year. Rough night last night. I didn't do well at all. Only cashed 1 out of 10 lineups. I played in that big $20 on DraftKings. Had no St. Louis. Had the wrong Kings line. I didn't have any Winnipeg. So it was a pretty big uphill battle. I honestly can't get over what's going on with Matt Murray in Toronto. It was brought to my attention on Twitter this morning. We talked about it on Discord not long before we went on the air that performance by Matt Murray, by some metrics, one of them being goals saved above expected over at Evolving Hockey, which is an advanced stats website, the best regular season game from a goaltender in the last 15 years since 2007. I don't even know what to say to that. I mean, because it's not as if it was just a random, really bad game from the Leafs against, a mediocre opponent or something like that. Like Dallas has one of the best offenses in the league. If you were to tell me that they were going to put up 44 shots on net last night, I probably would have had a Dallas stack in 10 out of 10 lineups. He gets the shutout. I mean, that's hockey. And the funny thing is he broke the record set by Ilya Sorokin like 2 weeks ago. And Sorokin got absolutely shelled last night. So welcome to NHL DFS and welcome to picking NHL goalies. Last night was your first big foray in NHL DFS. I couldn't sum it up any better than the dichotomy of performances between Matt Murray and Ilya Sorokin.
Yeah, I look like Matt Murray this morning. Like I just got those big puffy bags under my eyes. In our run sheet, I after introduce Cliffy, it says Tuesday review Max Payne. that's what it is. Like if you did well last night, congrats to you. One of these times we'll run good on the big slates where there isn't much NBA. It's always frustrating, but you have to keep in mind from a macro perspective that how many times are you up at the top of the GPPs anyway? It just sucks that it happens to be, on a slate where there's six figures up for stake, but we're right back at it tonight.
I mean, and we should probably shout out. You and I got a Twitter DM from Hope Shot on DraftKings. He finished third in the 444 last night on DraftKings. He had New Jersey and Carolina, but he had Dougie Hamilton and Matt Murray. So he got 80 points from Murray and Hamilton. Put up a pretty good lineup. So congrats to him. Hope other people out there did well because you and I certainly did not.
I think I put up over 100, but I used Sorokin, so like that just took the air right out of my sails. You know what I mean? So like I was just like, whatever. I got some good performances out of Carolina. I used Brady Shea, but like Tampa somehow got there at the end. Like Tampa 1 put up 42 DK points despite like almost getting shut out. So just one of those nights. It just sucks that it was on a big night. But again, like as a single entry player, how many times am I actually going to be up at the top of the leaderboard? So you just have to keep that in mind. Like, yeah, on these big nights, sometimes you overextend your bankroll a little bit, but you have to, just like anything else in life, diet or whatever, pull yourself back in.
Yeah. Moderation. My grandmother always said moderation is the key to everything.
Yeah, my grandmother just told me to go fuck myself. That's what she did.
I mean, both good pieces of advice in their own way.
But yeah, Make sure to give us a like and subscribe so you can keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, and much more. Once you subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. Don't forget, all of our content is available in podcast form on the platform of your choice. Help us out by leaving a 5-star review. If you're listening to this on podcast right now, thank you for tuning in for our mini therapy session at the beginning of the show. And we have a nice 7-gamer to bounce back and win all the money. I actually like this slate. Unfortunately, Edmonton is at home to Arizona and looks like Hyman is back. So that could be an absolute circus. But there are some other nice spots here tonight. So let's get into the slate. First game of the night, we have the Washington Capitals with a 3.2 total heading into Philadelphia. The Flyers have I almost said a 7.8. They have a 2.8. Charlie Lindgren, Carter Hart confirmed. Not much ownership in this game. I think there's some merit to doing a couple things on both sides here. Like, I think this is a pretty good power play spot for both sides. Maybe the Flyers power play isn't as good, but like both teams struggle on the penalty kill a little bit here. Charlie Lindgren is either this, backup or third goalie for the Capitals. Alex Ovechkin not getting much ownership here. It is a 6 over/under, which is like the new 5.5, but I think there is stuff to like on both sides here.
Yeah, there is. I'll start with the Philadelphia side. Yeah, James Van Riemsdyk back in the lineup. We don't know where he's going to be. We didn't get morning skate from the Flyers this morning. So where he slots in remains to be seen.
It's expensive on DraftKings anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like it's not whether necessarily which line he lines up on, because it would be nice if he's on the top line, let's say with Travis Konechny and playing 20 minutes, because that's Van Riemsdyk did have some 20-minute games earlier in the season. Like, feels like he's been out forever, and he has been. He's only played 5 full games this year, but he did have some pretty big ice time games earlier in the year. And it's not like this team is super healthy just yet. Like, they're still missing Cam Atkinson. They're still missing Sean Couturier. There's still some guys up front missing from the lineup. So, maybe he can slide onto the top power play instead of Morgan Frost or something like that. Just don't really know how it's going to work out. We'll see how warm-ups work. The one thing that's catching my eye about this game is how Philadelphia's using the lines. It seems like John Tortorella really likes to use Noah Cates in a shutdown role. So his line often goes out against the opposing top competition. Cates is playing with Hayes and Konechny. As we talked about on the last show with the Flyers, I think they're playing on Monday. Hayes and Konechny haven't been very good defensively this year. They have over 200 minutes together, 3.3 expected goals against, like well below average, 4.6 actual goals against. So they've been getting shelled in the defensive zone. I imagine Hayes, Cates, and Konechny are going to be used as a shutdown line against Ovechkin, Strome, and Sheary. Now, Ovechkin, Strome, and Sheary, their whole problem is shooting percentage related. They're actually generating 3.2 expected goals per 60 minutes in their time together. They're up to 120 minutes, which is, that's about 10 games worth of ice time. But they're shooting under 5% as a trio. That's a big problem because you need shooting percentages to score goals, and they're not doing that. Now, Ovechkin lines typically do score, but, we do have to keep in mind, this is Dylan Strome's first year with Washington. Like, Ovechkin's played with Kuznetsov or one of Kuznetsov or Backstrom pretty much all the time for like the last decade. This is a brand new center for him. So maybe they're still getting used to exactly where each other is going to be in the offensive zone. Ovechkin typically doesn't play a lot with Connor Sheary. Like, it's a pretty new line. But they are generating quite a bit offensively. And like I said, that Flyers top line, not really that good defensively. So especially where Ovechkin's been, playing some reasonably heavy minute games of late. Like, he does fluctuate. Sometimes he's been around 17, 18. Sometimes he's like 22, 23. But you can typically rely on him for about 20 minutes a game. So where that Washington top line, per our top stacks tool, isn't coming in with that much ownership, like at about 6%. Over on DraftKings, our expected ownership here tonight for that top line, a little bit higher, about 8 to 9% on FanDuel. It's still fine. Where there's not a lot of ownership coming in here. And the Philadelphia penalty kill hasn't really been great. A little bit better of late. But the Philly PK has definitely struggled at times this year. Carter Hart has bailed them out. TJ Oshie is looking to be a pretty big difference maker for them on the power play. The top power play unit's shot attempt rate has jumped 50% since he's gotten there. That's just a massive increase. Now, they're still not scoring a lot. I think they're around 7.8 goals per 60 minutes, but it's a lot better than what they were doing without him. So even like having an average power play against this Flyers team can be pretty good. So I really do like the position for Washington 1. What I will note is in their last game, they moved Evgeny Kuznetsov up to the top power play unit. So that gives people a lot more flexibility in what they he was in place of Marcus Johansson. So that gives them people more flexibility in what they want to do with the power play stacks, because now you have you have Kuznetsov and Oshie ostensibly on the top power play unit. You probably have Ovechkin and Strome. So you have two guys on the top power play on each of the top two lines. You can do a double center plus Ovechkin if you want to go that direction. You can go, Ovechkin plus Kuznetsov plus Oshie or something like that. There's a lot of ways you can stack that Washington top six. I really do like the position of the top line. I mean, it's not to say that the second line's in a bad spot either. Milano and Kuznetsov haven't really been that great defensively together, even with TJ Oshie there. Frost and Tippett. I was looking at the wrong line. Frost and Tippett and Farabee haven't really been that great defensively. Frost and Tippett specifically. So even though the Washington second line has struggled offensively as well, or defensively, they can still put it together offensively. So I think both of Washington's top two lines are in play here, but it's the power play guys that I would focus most on. Ovechkin and Strome, Kuznetsov and Oshie. I mean, you're getting really good prices on Oshie and Kuznetsov specifically. This is a pretty good matchup against the Flyers team. None of them are really coming in with much ownership. I think Ovechkin probably comes in a little bit higher than 7%, but I don't think it'll be that much more than like 10%, considering we have Boston and Edmonton in pretty good spots later on in this slate. So I really do like the Washington top line here. I understand that people are a little bit reticent because the power play hasn't been great at times. Ovechkin, he's still scoring, but he's not putting up the numbers he was last year or the couple of years before that. I just think it's a really good spot for Washington 1, especially when you're considering their ownership. So I think the Caps top line is what I like most here. I don't mind that second line of Farabee, Frost, and Tippett. They're getting reasonable ice time, 15 or 16 minutes. Tippett can shoot. He's pretty inconsistent, but he can get the job done. Frost is on the top power play. They're relatively cheap. The Washington second line is pretty porous defensively. I don't mind Farabee, Frost, and Tippett. Like maybe some sort of two-man stack, like Frost and Farabee or Frost and Tippett or something like that. I think that's where I go on the Flyers side. But more than anything, it's the Washington top line I like here.
Yeah, I almost never like the Capitals, and I like them tonight. Just a combination of lower ownership, a really good spot. And like they were gonna go overlooked, even if their ownership does come up. Like Boston is really expensive. Edmonton with Hyman back is probably like almost 25K. So like you're not like people first clicks aren't going to be Ovechkin on this slate. And I think this is a pretty good spot, even to one off him or, mix and match him with the power play guys. On the blue line here, Carlson, price keeps coming down. Production is staying about the same. So Carlson hit the shot bonus his last game in like 3 shifts. Like Washington had like 412 shots against Stu Skinner and Edmonton in the first period the other night. John Carlson, 6,700, definitely in play. If you can't get to him, there are a couple punts that I like. Trevor Van Riemsdyk at 2,600, Nick Jensen, 3,400. On the Flyer side, Travis Sanheim, Ivan Provorov. That's about it. Or actually, I'm sorry, I always forget about Tony D because he's down on the third pair.
Yeah, Sanheim's been playing like 21, 22 minutes of late. which is a pretty big increase in his ice time from, like a month ago. So he is getting a little bit expensive at 3,900, but for his price, I think it's just fine. I do like Tony D again. The Washington penalty kill has improved a lot as the season's gone on, and that's a little bit of a concern. But D'Angelo's 4,800 and not 6,800. I think he's very reasonably priced there. I do like John Carlson again. I agree with you. I like that the price keeps coming down, even though the production's been relatively consistent. I think he's a guy you can definitely slide in your Washington stacks or just use him by himself. If not him, I'm probably going to go back to Nick Jensen. But there are cheap guys in this game that we can use, and I think Jensen and Van Riemsdyk would be two of them.
Yeah, agreed. StreamYard's yelling at me, saying my Wi-Fi is unstable and to plug in with a router. I'm plugged in with a router, StreamYard. Let's calm down.
Technology, man.
My screen is like, if I had epilepsy, I'd be on the floor right now. Buffalo Sabres, 3.7 total. Going into Columbus, the Jackets have a 3.1 total. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Joonas Korpisalo confirmed for the goalies. This game is quite a scene. Blue Jackets played last night. They scored like a minute into the game and then didn't do anything after that. The first line still really, really expensive at 21.6 on DraftKings. Buffalo, outside of Edmonton, has the biggest total on the slate, and it's a 3.7 road total. I think there is merit to going to either of the top two lines here, depending on your builds. I'm not sure what I want to do with Columbus top line. Like, they're getting like 7-8% ownership. Their projection is really, really good. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is like the fifth goalie. It's a pretty good power play spot. Push comes to shove, I'm going to play Buffalo. But I don't think we should overlook Columbus top line here tonight.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is, goalies are goalies. We started the show off with Murray and Sorokin and what those two guys have done in the last couple of weeks. So, anything can happen in any given game. But Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has definitely really not looked very good in his brief stint so far in the NHL this year. Hasn't looked good in his NHL stints prior to this. This is a team that's been desperate for a goalie of the future for years now, at the very least, since Allmark left, if not even before that. And he just can't break through to get to the NHL level. They went out and got Craig Anderson and Eric Comrie and Jordan Subban because Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen wasn't developing at all. So, I don't have a lot of confidence with him in net. And the Buffalo penalty kill has been bottom 5 in the league over the last month. And on yesterday's show, we talked about how good the Columbus power play had been of late. Now, we should note that the Columbus power play actually is generating less with Patrick Laine there than they were without him. And I wonder if there's not something going on has happened in Washington over the last couple of years where they just keep looking for that one guy to take that shot.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah. And it's messing up, their passing patterns. It's messing up, their player switches and things like that. So I don't wonder if Laine being there is actually worse for the power play. I think that's a genuine open question at this point, but generally speaking, the Columbus power play has been miles better than it was in the first month of the season, while the Buffalo penalty kill has taken a nosedive. The Columbus top line with Laine has been pretty good. 3.1 expected goals in 115 minutes together, 3.7 actual goals. They're all skating over 21 minutes a night since Laine came back a few games ago. So you're going to get a ton of ice time. You're going to get all the guys in the same power play. They're going to be facing a bad goaltender. Buffalo's defense isn't great anyway. Yeah, I do think this is a pretty good spot for the Columbus top line, and they're coming in with no ownership. The best leverage line of the night per our top stacks, at least right now. We have them as basically neck and neck with the Buffalo top line for top 2 stack percentage. And I think that honestly makes sense because, again, like we said yesterday, if Columbus is going to score a handful of goals, we know where they're probably going to come from. It's going to come from the top line. So I really do like the spot for Columbus's top line here. I don't like it as much for the Buffalo side because Columbus, like Jenner and Gaudreau, actually have decent defensive numbers together. And I say a decent, very loosely because it's like Columbus adjusted decent, not like decent compared to league-wide numbers. But they haven't been awful defensively. It could be a bit of a tougher matchup for Buffalo one, and like where we at least so far early on, we have the Buffalo top line coming in with basically double the ownership. I think it's really worth to take a hard look at that Columbus top line. And I think there's some merit. Like if you want to save some money, I think you can take off Line and put on Marchenko or something like that because Marchenko was on the power play for them last night. He was a recent call up. He's probably their best prospect, even though I think he's 26 years old. He's got that Michael Bunting thing going on for Rookie of the Year, I think. But I think you can put Marchenko there. Marchenko's still stone mint price. I think he didn't play much last night, like 10, 11 minutes, but he'll still get that top power play time. So you can save a lot of money doing that. But I do like this spot for that Columbus top line. They're coming in 44-point projection on DraftKings. It's higher than Boston one. It's higher than Vegas one, but I guess Vegas one doesn't have Eichel. It's definitely higher than Washington one. Like there's a pretty good chance for a good night here. So I do like Columbus one. I'm not going to say no to playing Buffalo one. It's still a good spot for them. Columbus doesn't take a ton of penalties. They're below league average in that regard, and the penalty kill has been fine. So not really like a smash power play spot for Buffalo, but I think it's fine. Honestly, for the Sabres, I think it's the second line that I like more here tonight. Cousins, Quinn, and Peterka have been really, really good since being put together. 90 minutes, 5.3 expected goals for, 5.8 actual goals for. They're shooting under 15%, which is still a little bit high. But once you get Jenner and Gaudreau, like we talked about it on the show yesterday for Columbus, once you get Gaudreau and Jenner off the ice, there's really nothing defensively to stop anybody from the opposition. So I think you might see Cousins come in fairly highly owned because he does get that power play one stack. And then Quinn and Peterka are pretty cheap. I don't think you have to full three-man them. I think you can do like a Cousins and Quinn or a Cousins and Peterka, same thing that we just talked about with the Flyers. But as one of those fillery type stacks, I really do like the spot for that Buffalo second line here tonight. So that's kind of where I am. Columbus 1, Buffalo 2 is what I like most in this game. I'm just not sure about the Columbus side. Jack Roslovic was benched last game for the third period, if I'm not mistaken. They have been mixing up their depth lines a little bit, during games over the last few games. So I just stick with the line that I'm pretty sure is going to stay together. So Columbus 1 is for sure what I like the most in this game. I don't mind that Cousins line as a filler.
Yeah. I think I'm a little bit higher on Buffalo 1 than you are. The ownership does bother me a little bit, but like 15% is fine. Like you're probably going to have to fade Edmonton if you're playing Buffalo 1. And, Edmonton ownership is going to be higher. Like it's just going to be higher. Like there's no question about it. So like, I guess it's fine because you're going to have to fade the other chalk spot and you can differentiate yourself a little bit there. The problem is fading Edmonton, you know what I mean? Like, but if you're MMEing and you have the marbles to fade Edmonton, I think Buffalo 1's a good spot. I also like Columbus 1's similarly priced, and they're coming in half the ownership of Buffalo 1, so I think they're fine as well. On the blue lines here, Rasmus Dahlin, if you want to correlate, I guess is fine. I think I'd rather go to, Owen Power or Henry Jokiharju. On the Columbus side, probably Gavrikov or Goodbranson. You could, I guess, correlate with Marcus Bjork, but, I'd rather play the other guys.
Yeah, I think Bjork's just a little bit expensive for what he's doing. He's fine if you want to correlate, like you said. Yeah, Goodbranson's probably the guy that I do like here, which feels weird just playing Eric Goodbranson like every time Columbus is on the slate, but DFS makes for strange bedfellows. So I do like him. If you can pay up for Gavrikov, I think it's a good spot for him, especially where he's getting some power play 2 time. I do think it's a pretty good game for Rasmus Dahlin. He's definitely not quite on the tear that he was earlier this season. I don't think anybody expected that from him, but I think this is a spot where if you don't play the Buffalo top line, you can kind of just one-off Dahlin by himself or something like that. So I do like him here tonight.
Yep. And I think he'll probably, I know in our projections he's getting ownership, but I think it's kind of hard to click in Rasmus Dahlin when John Carlson is $600 less. So I don't know. He might come in on it.
Well, it's not only that. It's like if we get super heavy ownership on Boston and Edmonton, you play those teams, you're not playing Dahlin, right? So, you could probably take, I don't know, 40% of the field out of the equation immediately. So we'll see.
Yeah. I don't really look at defensive ownership projections. I just play the best guys because it's not like you're stacking defensemen and you're going to get duped with your D-men. So, I mean, you have to be aware if something fits too easily with everything, you'd be like, well, that might be dupe, but be 15% Dahlin, I'm not playing him. If it's an elite spot, I'm just going to click him in.
Yeah.
I don't care about ownership there. That's my mini rant. And we're sponsored by BetMGM, and you can get a risk-free bet up to $1,000 and 2 months of Stokastic Platinum for free. If your risk-free bet loses, you'll be refunded in site credit, which you can use for more bets. It's very easy. Just got to create a free Stokastic membership using the form below or log in if you already have one. Use the link in the description. It will give you everything step by step. It is the easiest way. I'll tell you how to do it, but just click the link in the description. Go on your way. You click the MGM button and complete the steps with MGM, create a BetMGM account. All that stuff is very, very easy, just a few steps. Depending on what your risk-free bet wants to be, has to be a minimum of at least $10. You can go up to $1,000. You make your bet. Your bet must settle to qualify, and then after all of that is done, you'll receive an email from BetMGM. It's not going to be from Stokastic. It'll be from BetMGM with instructions for redeeming your 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Again, just click the link in the description. After you get the email, if you're having issues, you can reach out to Stokastic support. You can DM me. I can help you. I'll get in touch with the right people, and we'll go on our way. So, yeah, click the link in the description. Sign up. This is the best deal I've read from BetMGM on the show. Minnesota, 2.8 total heading into Calgary. The Flames have a 3.3 total. Marc-Andre Fleury, confirmed. Dan Vladar, probable. Here we are with Minnesota again. I guess you dropped a little nugget in our Discord that Sam Steele has unlocked the power of Kaprizov and Zuccarello. I just these lines are just not great. I don't know how else to describe it. And then on the other side, the Flames are just so bad. So I want to play the Flames here. Their top line is very appropriately priced. The pricing on it is not very expensive at all. They just have not been very good to the eye test. I don't know what the numbers say, but to the eye test, they just have not looked great. Minnesota has played well defensively. I don't think I'm going to prioritize this game in 1-3, but I think there is some value here in MME.
I laughed because you said you didn't really like the lines, and I looked at my other screen, and the first name I saw was Nick Patan. It's oh my God, what are we doing?
Yeah, on the second line.
Yeah. You raise a good point about the Calgary top line, about the eye test and the numbers and all that. They have been playing well, but here's the difference is they're only scoring 1.4 goals per 60 minutes, which, is definitely undershooting what they're doing offensively because they're at 2.6 expected goals. But they're doing it on I don't have the number in front of me, but I think it's around 66 shot attempts per 60 minutes. 2.6 expected goals on 66 shot attempts is not very good. Just for reference, the Calgary second line is putting up roughly the same number of shot attempts and is at 3.3 expected goals or something like that. So 30% higher than the Calgary top line, despite taking the same number of shot attempts. it speaks to how Huberdeau, Lindholm, and Toffoli are really struggling to create quality chances. And I do think they break out. I don't think they, finish the season at 1.4 goals per 60 minutes. But are they going to be a line that scores 3.2 or 3.3? I mean, maybe. Maybe they figure it out in the second half of the season, but they haven't showed anything like that to this point. And the other problem here is the way Calgary runs their lines. They have been using Backlund and Coleman quite a bit as a shutdown line. So, and they've been good together. 1.9 expected goals against per 60 minutes this year. They'll be going up against Kaprizov, Steele, and Zuccarello. That leaves the Calgary first and second lines going out against the second and third lines from the Wild. And we know that one of those two lines from Minnesota is one of the best checking lines in the league.
It's not Nick Pettin.
I mean, I don't want to slag Nick Petan either. I think he could be a decent NHLer, but second line next to Matt Boldy, I don't think he's that good. But anyways, that kind of creates the problem with the Calgary top line is I think they see a reasonable amount of 5-on-5 time against one of the best checking lines in the league as the Flames are trying to get them away from good lines. It's one of those things that's can sometimes backfire on coaches when they do line matching is that, some lines are better at different things than others. And that Minnesota, Eriksson, Foligno, Greenway line is really good at shutting down the opposition. So, they might be able to handle their minutes against the Calgary top line here. So that's one of the things that concerns me. Minnesota's penalty kill isn't terrible. It's fine. They don't take a lot of penalties either, a little bit below average in that regard. So it's not like it's a great power play spot for Calgary. I don't have a real Calgary top line here tonight. They're coming with good ownership, very reasonably priced. So, you can get in a really good secondary stack, or you can get in, at least one pretty expensive defenseman if you want to go in that direction. They allow for a lot of roster flexibility. They do play 18, 19 minutes a night. But Minnesota's been one of the better defensive teams in the league for about 5 or 6 weeks, for about 5 weeks now. It's just their goaltending, math kind of lets them down once in a while. So I don't mind playing Calgary 1 here tonight. I just don't know if they're a line that I'm going to be running out to play that's in that price range. Vancouver's top line is in that price range. The Washington top line that we just talked about is in that price range. Vegas too, we'll talk about them in a little bit. They're in that price range as well. I think there are other lines that are within $1,000 or $1,500 of them that I would rather go out and play. So don't mind Calgary 1. I don't think I'll be going in that direction. I think if anything, it'd be going back to Calgary 2 and just taking, Kadri and Mangiapane, or just Mangiapane one-offs or Kadri one-offs or something like that. I think that's how I'm going to be treating the Flames. On the Minnesota side, the top line has been better with Steele, but I think it just kind of highlights how much they miss Ryan Hartman. With Sam Steele, they're scoring 2.6 goals per 60 minutes, which really isn't that good at 5-on-5. But it's much, much better than what they were doing with Freddie Gaudreau, which is the problem with Minnesota here. They don't have a center they can play on that top line. But Steele, I've watched the last 2 Minnesota games. Steele's looked good, and the numbers look good as well. So I know it's kind of a tough matchup going against that Backlund Coleman line, but I do like Minnesota 1 here tonight. That, like I said, that line has been good. They're not coming in with much ownership, about 5%. Over on DraftKings, about the same over on FanDuel. Calgary, 3.6 times shorthanded per game, so they do take penalties. If I'm taking anything from this game, I think it's the Minnesota top line for me.
Yeah, and Markstrom's been so bad that Dan Vladar is making his 3rd consecutive start. So, I don't know. I want to play Minnesota here. It's just you're just bringing a road cone along for the ride if you're full out stacking into these lines. I like Sam Steele, but not enough to put him in my lineup. I like Matt Boldy, but do I really want to play Nick Petan and Freddie Gaudreau with him? So no. The answer is no. Yeah. So maybe I'll just power play stack. I don't mind full out stacking the checking line. Like, yeah, they don't get as much minutes on the road as they do at home, but like, you know what you're gonna get with them at least. I don't know. I'm on a lot of rants today. Let's move to the blue line. Deep breath. Alex Goligoski, he's been playing like 23, 24 minutes at 2,900. Don't mind him. Like Kellen Addison, like he's kind of in the same Marcus Bjork bin. Like it's like the dollar movie night at Walmart. Like you can play him if you want. You just probably won't find anything good in there. So like Goligoski for me, Spurgeon's fine, Dumba's fine, even Jacob Middleton's fine. On the Calgary side, like Mackenzie Weegar is still under 4K on DraftKings. I think he's fine, but I prefer Hanifin or Anderson.
Yeah, Anderson's been playing like 24 minutes a night of late. He doesn't really need the power play to get there, but I still think I do like Hanifin just because he's still been putting up good peripherals here. But yeah, it would be one of Hanifin or Anderson that I would play. I still can't get over Michael Stone's price. He's 5,500 on FanDuel, I think. Like, it's just absolutely insane. On the Minnesota side, it's Goligoski or Dumba. I think those two guys are 1-2, or one at first and third in ice time over the last couple weeks amongst the Minnesota defensemen. So for me, it'd be Goligoski or Dumba, just depending on how much salary you need to use.
Yeah, I agree there. Let's move on to the next one. Boston Bruins 3.4 total heading into Colorado. The Avs have a 2.7. Linus Ullmark is confirmed. Thank you, Boston, for confirming him. Alexander Georgiev probable for the Avalanche. McKinnon's out for a month. Nichushkin and Landeskog skated today. Nichushkin did not participate in power play drill, so he's going to be out tonight. Landeskog's still a little bit a while away. McKinnon out for a month. Top line of Newhook, Rantanen, Charles Hudon. Second line of Cogliano, Confer, O'Connor. With Cogliano, Confer, O'Connor, I can make the assumption that they're going to go out against Bergeron, DeBrusk, Marchand. They have actually been pretty good defensively. This still is a Boston game. Like the Avs top line is getting surprisingly high ownership. I guess it's price driven there because Hudon and Newhook are combined 1,500. That being said, like they are probably going to avoid Bergeron, so maybe there is some merit to go there. But I don't know if I really want to play an Avs team that is so banged up going into one of the best defensive teams in the NHL. So for me, this is a Boston game.
Yeah, I'll just say I don't have interest in the Colorado forwards. Like I'm pretty sure. I think half their lineup is from the AHL. It's like
they
it's
just
either
like 9 guys.
Yeah, it's 9 out of 18 or 8 out of 18 guys are from the AHL. They only have one forward that would be in their regular top 6, and that's Rantanen. I don't understand any appeal of going to Colorado here, especially with the ownership that we're showing on them, right? Like, because Alex Newhook played like 23 minutes or whatever last game and is on the top power play, he's going to get ownership. Because Charles Hudon, I think he had 7 shots in the last game and his min price on the top line, he's going to get ownership. I don't want to play these guys at double-digit ownership when there's no one, there's just Mikko Rantanen to help them, and that's it. And it's like you said, it's not as if like this is Buffalo or Columbus or Anaheim in town. This is probably the best defensive team in hockey, and they're starting their actual good goalie, or the goalie that's been playing better this year anyway. So, like, if people want to save some money and like just one off Hudon, one off Newhook, one off Comfort, something like that, like I'm not going to say no, but I just don't have interest in Colorado here tonight. I don't see the appeal in this matchup. I don't care if Rantanen plays 25 minutes. He doesn't have anybody to play with. Newhook, he's a guy that they kind of really needed to have a breakout season. I know he scored 2 goals in his last game. He had 7 points in his first 22 games before that. Like, guys score 2 goals every once in a while. It happens to players quite a bit. I remember a Florida defenseman moving up front and scoring a hat trick once upon a time. Like, these games happen. That doesn't mean that they're great plays the next time that they're on the ice. So all that considered, I'm out on Colorado. The bigger question is what to do with Boston. Now they had morning practice yesterday, I think it was, and they had Marchand, Bergeron, DeBrusk on the top line. Pasternak played on the top line in the third period in their last game. That's shootout loss to Vegas. Now they did that because they needed a goal. They had to stay in the game, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think they're going to be in that position here with Colorado. If they do, it's probably because Georgiev is on his way to making 50 saves or something like that. So, especially with Pasternak's at 8,700, not his 9,300 or whatever, I think, you're perfectly fine to go Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak. Colorado does take a lot of penalties, 3.7 times shorthanded per game. Boston draws 3.8 power plays per game. So Boston could get quite a bit of opportunity on the power play here. God, who knows what that penalty kill is going to look like with all these players out of the lineup. So I do like Boston 1. I'd probably put in Pasternak over DeBrusk. It's really only been Bergeron and Marchand shooting at 5-on-5 anyway. DeBrusk really hasn't been chipping in. So I do like Boston 1 with Pasternak here tonight. I don't think I would dip down to the second line. Like, they're carrying like 10% ownership, which, yeah, they can absolutely get there. And I think even David Krejci got some power play one time in the last game when they're on a 5-on-3 or something like that. But that line itself hasn't been that great. And if Rantanen's going out against Bergeron, they're probably going to get that Cogliano, Comfort, Logan O'Connor line, like the one line they've been able to keep together most of this year. That Colorado line's actually been really good defensively. So I don't have interest in Boston 2. Like, I think Boston 3 is playable. If you want to do like a Coyle and Hall or something like that, like, I think that's fine. But it's the Boston 1 and Pasternak that I have the most interest here. Not really anything from the Colorado side.
Yeah, I'm probably out on Colorado as well. I just saw the Rangers lines. I will have some opinions on those when we get there. Good God. Whew. Charlie McAvoy on the blue line. I do like him tonight. I think he's probably about it. Like, if you want to punt Brandon Carlo, I think that's fine. Devin Taves moves up to the top power play unit for the Avs. Like, this isn't the best power play spot, but he is only 5,200. Don't mind him. Like, hopefully his periffs start pumping up, and they actually broke up Makar and Taves, which is, I think, better for Taves, honestly, at least for DFS. So yeah, I don't mind Taves. Like, Sam Girard up on the top pair with Makar at 2,800 is also fine.
Yeah, I don't mind McAvoy for the power play spot here. Like, Brandon Carlo, he's been blocking shots. I just wonder if Colorado generates enough shots for Carlo to actually get to the block bonus here tonight. On the Colorado side, you got to think if they win this game, it's one of two reasons. Cale Makar goes nuclear, or Georgiev just plays out of his mind. So I like both Georgiev and Makar here in tournaments. You got to think those two guys have to be the best players on the ice if Colorado wins this game, which they're probably not going to, but we have definitely seen weirder things happen than that. So I do like both Makar and Georgiev here tonight.
Yes, I agree with that. And click the link in the description. You can get Stokastic NHL for 3 days for free. It's a risk-free trial, and you get full access to everything NHL. Projections, ownership, top stacks, tools, rankings, me, Cliffy, you, the community. It's, why not take advantage of that? It's free. It's for new users only. So if you've never had a Stokastic subscription, click the link in the description, get your 3 days free, give everything a test drive. And when you like it, because you will, you just, keep going with the membership. Check it out. Link in the description. Let's move on to the people's main event of the evening. Arizona Coyotes, 2.6 total, heading into Edmonton. The Oilers have a 4 total. Now, before I get into this game, I just must say, like, they're expecting Hyman in, but our lineup builder doesn't have a projection for Hyman yet. Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid on their own would be the third highest line projected on the night, right behind Columbus and Buffalo. with Hyman in, I would imagine they're going to push, 55 points. They're going to be chalky. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They're very, very expensive. You can fit them in with competent lines, though. This is a very good power play spot. Yeah, like I'm just playing the power play one guys on Edmonton and calling it a day. There's no reason to, get fancy with Matthias Janmark or James Hamblin or anything like that. So Edmonton won, Edmonton power play. Like, we do have to talk about the Coyotes, though, because we just saw the Oilers give up like 50-something shots to Washington, who are in the middle of the pack for, expected Corsi for. So, like, I think there is some merit to some Coyotes power play guys here. I don't know if I'll get to there in 1 to 3, but like, I think you have to consider the top line here at least.
Are we going to be doing a little bit of "ow" tonight? Are we? Is that what we're going to do?
Werewolves in London? I'm down for it.
Yeah, with that Edmonton top line, I think it's 25,300 for the three of them on DraftKings. As expensive as that is, there are still a bunch of decent lines you can fit in with them. I'm just looking through our top stacks list. Calgary 2, you can fit in with them. San Jose 2, you can fit in with them. Buffalo 2, you can fit in with them. The Coleman Backlund line from Calgary, you can fit in with them. The Columbus second line, you can fit in with them. The Washington second line, you can fit in with them.
You might be able to fit the new Rangers top line in with them.
Yeah, but who's playing bad teams tonight? Here's the thing with Edmonton and Arizona. If I asked you, I'm going to ask you a question. Where do you think Arizona ranks in goals against per 60 minutes at all situations over the last 4 weeks? Over the last month, sorry, going back to November 7th.
I've watched more Calgary game or Arizona games than I really want to admit. So I'm going to say somewhere in the middle of the pack.
Pretty close. They're 10th.
Yeah.
They're 10th by goals against in the NHL over the last month. They have a better goals against mark than the Islanders, than the Rangers, than Vegas, than Tampa Bay. They've been doing some work defensively to really get better. Now, their expected goals against is quite a bit worse, but they're not giving up a ton of shots either. They're only in the middle of the pack by shots allowed. Arizona's not been like awful defensively, and Carl Vejmelka's had a pretty good season. Edmonton can tear apart any team. Like, to me, it doesn't matter if it was Vancouver in town or if it was, Arizona here, or if it was, Calgary in town, or if it was Buffalo in town, or, basically anybody but like Boston. And I would have no problem saying, I feel comfortable saying that the Edmonton Oilers top line can tear them apart. Like, they can tear apart anybody, but the Arizona, and specifically the top line of Keller and Boyd and Schmaltz, have been much better defensively than they were through the first, 3 weeks or so of the season. Keller, Boyd, and Schmaltz, 2 expected goals against per 60 minutes, 2 actual goals against since Schmaltz came back. They're not giving up a lot. Now, they're not generating a lot offensively either, at least at 5-on-5, but they're not giving up a lot. But what can you say to people that want to play Edmonton here tonight? Like, obviously, it's the best line on this slate, and I think it's not even close. They're at home. It's that, that concentrated goal situation. Like, if Edmonton puts up 5 goals here tonight, it's not like McDavid and Draisaitl are going to be held off the score sheet. So, where the points are going to come from. So, I don't have any problem playing Edmonton here, and there are lots of lines that you can fit in with them. I just think I'm going to be taking my single entry lineup in a different direction. Go ahead and play them. Like, it's not a terrible spot. They do have that monster total. I just think there's going to be just a ton of ownership, and there are other good lines on this slate. On the Arizona side, they're generating roughly as many expected goals as they were last year. The difference has been a shooting percentage. I think last year that top line for Arizona shot like 17% or something, which is pretty high at 5-on-5. They're under 11% this year. So it's been a little bit of a change for them. But these are the 2 most penalized teams in the NHL. Arizona has the most time shorthanded this year, which is one of the reasons why Edmonton is in such a good spot here tonight. But Edmonton is second at 3.9 times shorthanded per game, and Arizona is about average in drawing power plays. And you get Keller and Schmaltz on the top power play unit. Their overall projection isn't super high at about 27 points. But it's higher than Buffalo too. It's higher than that Calgary second line. It's about the same as the Philadelphia top line. So it's not like it's awful. I don't mind Arizona 1 here tonight. I don't think you have to play Boyd. You can put him in if you need somebody in that center spot. He can make it a 3-man of like Keller, Schmaltz, and Krause, because Lawson Krause has actually been shooting the puck. I don't mind that Arizona second line. I probably wouldn't full out stack them, but like a 2-man of like Krause and Bukestad, if you need to, save money to really fit in the expensive Boston, or even game stack with Edmonton, I think that's kind of the direction I would go. Don't mind either of the top 2 Arizona lines. I do like Krause and Bukestad as a little 2-man here. Obviously, you got to love Edmonton.
Yeah. I'm interested to see the ownership run with Hyman in there, with Puljujarvi in there. They're around 20%. I would imagine that jumps up even more with Hyman, despite him being very expensive. On the blue line here, we're having the Bouchard dilemma again. It's just hard to trust the Bouchard-Barry situation. I think, all things considered, I'll just go Darnell Nurse. On the Coyotes side, like, Chikrin's fine, but like 7,100 when you can play Dahlin for 200 more or Carlson for 400 less, and those guys are both getting power play 1 time. Like, yeah, so probably not much here on the Coyote side.
Yeah, that's the difference maker for me. If either Chikrin or Ghost were on the top power play, I would really like those guys, because I think it is a good power play spot for Arizona here tonight. It's just they're not. They have Janice Moser there, which whatever. Cody Ceci I think is fine. He's been playing a lot of minutes. It's not a terrible matchup for him. I do like Darnell Nurse at 5K. As long as his price stays there, I think he's playable, and it kind of takes that Bouchard or Barry question out of the equation.
Yeah. Let's get to these Rangers here. New York Rangers with a 2.8 total heading into Vegas. The Golden Knights have a 3.2 total. Jack Eichel, I believe, is out again tonight, leaving Paul Cotter up on the top line with Stevenson and Stone. Marshall, Carlson, Smith still the second line. Nick Roy probably continues on power play 1. Rangers lines. Mika Zibanejad is in between Alexis Lafreniere and Capo Caco. I don't mind that, all things considered. That's fine. But then it gets a little feisty. Panarin is with Hedl, which I like, but then they put Barclay Goodrow there, which is just, that's like leaving a cone in traffic. Then they have Kreider with Trocheck and VC, which means they're probably going to scratch Vitaly Kravtsov, which seems like an absolutely idiotic thing to do. Rangers are averaging 3.56 goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 with Kravtsov on the ice. 1.16 against. Now,
gotta scratch him.
Yeah, gotta scratch him. Compare that with Barclay Goodrow, who's not moving up to play with Panarin and Hedl. 2.11 goals for per 60, 2.88 goals against per 60. Gerard Gallant.
Gotta play him.
Yeah, gotta play him. The reason Gerard Gallant got fired from Florida, the reason he got fired from Vegas, is because he's so stubborn. I don't know, read a book, learn about, expected goals. Anyway, with the kids up there with Zibanejad, like 50, the Lafreniere and Kako are 5,700 combined. Mika Zibanejad is 7,700. They're 13-4 to full stack on DraftKings. Don't mind it there tonight. I like VC and Kreider together with Trocheck is, I guess, okay. Like, Zibanejad's better than Trocheck, but like Kreider and VC kind of have played well together. It's just like the Gaudreau up on the second line. I can feel the migraine pulsating behind my eye right now. I wanted to play Panarin, Hedl, and Kravtsov tonight. Going to a Rangers line, it will be Mika Zibanejad and Lafreniere, Kako. Vegas, it's going to be that second line.
Yeah. I will say I don't have a lot of interest in the Rangers anymore. I was looking at Zibanejad's numbers without Kreider over the last couple of years. They haven't really been that great. 1.8 expected goals for, 2.7 expected goals against in almost 200 minutes without Kreider. Lafreniere and Kako have a shooting percentage issue this year, and Zibanejad's not like a great playmaker. He's the guy that finishes the plays. So I do have concerns about how that line's going to play. So I'm out on the Zibanejad line. Panarin, Hedl, and Goodrow. Like Panarin and Hedl have their own defensive issues going back a couple years whenever they play together. And Goodrow's certainly not going to help. So I'm out on that line. I think it's Kreider, Trocheck, and VC that I would like the best. I don't know how they're going to match up. I imagine they see the third and fourth lines from Vegas. And Vegas's third line, I mean, depends which line is technically the third line, but Amadio and Kessel haven't been very good defensively this year, or depending whatever line that they decide to use as the third line. I think it'd be Kreider and Trocheck, if anything, for me on the Rangers side. I think it's Vegas 2 that I like the best. I think the way that the Rangers have their top 6 lines constructed right now, it's kind of like we said with St. Louis when St. Louis played. It's just the combination of wingers they're using with their centers is going to lead to some bad defensive lines. And I think St. Louis just is going through it, and I think the Rangers are going to go through the exact same problem with the lines that they have now. So I'm not playing Paul Cotter. I don't like playing Chandler Stevenson. So I'm going to go down to that Vegas second line that has been pretty good over the last 3 weeks. 3.4 expected goals for, 3.5 actual goals for. Marsh, so well over 3 shots per game of late. Vegas 2 for me. If anything on the Rangers side, Trocheck and Kreider, at least 2 of the 3 of them are on the power play.
It's not hard to make good lines on the Rangers. K'Andre Miller, I like. He's been playing big minutes at 3K. I guess you could play Adam Fox here tonight, but like his price is fine. But I just don't think this is the time or place. Like Trouba, I guess is fine, but like there just isn't much there. I think I'd just punt with K'Andre Miller. On the Golden Knights side, probably Shea Theodore here. I think White Cloud is fine. I think Nick Hague is fine. Braden McNabb's still fine at 3,800.
Yeah, I think it's Zach Whitecloud that kind of jumped out to me. He was his first year, I think, when he was actually getting decent minutes, he was a good DFS option. The problem this year is that he's been playing like 16 minutes a game. But now that he's up, 19, 20 minutes without Pietrangelo, I think Whitecloud and K'Andre Miller both are playing a lot more minutes than they were earlier in the season. So I like both of those guys here tonight. Fox is fine for 6K.
Yeah. Let's get to the late night hammer. 2 of our favorite late night teams to get absolutely destroyed by. Vancouver Canucks, 3.3 total heading into San Jose. The Sharks have a 3.2. Spencer Martin probable. Capo Kakinen confirmed. I like both sides of this game. I like. It sucks that Kuzmenko's not on the second line with Pettersson and Mikheyev, so I'd probably just go to the Horvat Miller line. But like, yeah, Timo Meier, Tomas Hertl, just steamrolling. I know they didn't have a great game. I think it was their last game, but I think going back to them is fine here. Both sides of this game interest me.
Yeah, here's the interesting part for me is, if I'm not mistaken, Vancouver was in San Jose like a week ago or 10 days ago or something like that. And they used Meier, Hertl in the bank quite a bit against Pettersson. And as I talked about on the last show when we had Vancouver on, the Pettersson, Kuzmenko, Mikheyev line, their defensive numbers took a nosedive after their first 5 or 6 games together. And I think that's kind of why – I think that's one of the reasons why you saw Kuzmenko move down to the third line, is because, yes, they wanted to get Besser high in the lineup, but I also think that they were getting caved in defensively. Like, Pettersson had one game where he went -5 on 5 goals against by Washington. They were really doing poor defensively. Brock Besser's not going to help them defensively. I was looking at numbers. Pettersson and Brock Besser together in calendar 2022, 3.1 expected goals against per 60 minutes. I don't think they're going to be able to stop that San Jose top line regularly. So I do like Meier, Hertl, and LeBanc quite a bit here. They're still playing well. Their last 3 weeks, 2.9 expected goals for, 3.8 actual goals for. Hurdle's up to 27 shots in his last 10 games, which was a big issue for him earlier in the season. He wasn't shooting at all. Now he's, flirting with, 2.7, 2.8 shots per game. It's Meyer and Hurdle in the bank that I like the most here. I think it's a pretty good matchup against Pettersson. The power play, not great. And the Vancouver penalty kill has actually gotten a lot better after their really bad first 3 or 4 weeks of the season or whatever. But I think that San Jose top line is in a pretty good matchup. On the flip side, I do like Horvat, Miller, and Höglander here for kind of the same reason, just on the other team. It's that the Couture line's defensive numbers have been sliding. I think that's why you're seeing Matt Nieto moved off and Nick Bonino moved on, is to kind of try to stabilize the defensive numbers a little bit. 3.1 expected goals against, 3.6 actual goals against for that second line from San Jose over the last 3 weeks. They're really struggling defensively. Höglander, Horvat, and Miller are playing very well offensively. 4.2 goals per 60 minutes in their time together. Not really a great power play spot for Vancouver because San Jose does have a very good penalty kill. But if anything for the Canucks, I think it's the Horvat line. On San Jose, it's the Hurdle line. So technically, I think it's both top lines that I like most here.
Yeah, I do like both top lines here, and nothing quite like staying up till 1 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, and, sweating out a Sharks Canucks game.
I'm not doing it. If I have players from this game and my early guys do well, I'm going to bed regardless. I'm in bed by 1 o'clock. I am not watching this game.
I think you're onto something here. On the blue line, they're just like, if you want to correlate with the power play guys, that's fine. But other than that, there really isn't much there. I guess Tyler Myers and Jacob Megna would be the punts.
Yeah. Not really a lot from Vancouver because they have Quinn Hughes playing 26, 27 minutes and everybody else under 19 minutes. And that's not really great for DFS. At that point, you're just flipping coins. I think Matt Benning's just fine at 3K. He's a guy that can get those block shots. I think he might actually be the defenseman, and I like the best in this game considering price.
Yeah, I missed him. Good call there. Lots of cheap goalies tonight. Who you like in a net?
Who I like in net? Oh, thanks. Yeah, there are some cheap goalies. I think Marc-Andre Fleury could see some good volume from a Calgary team that's struggling to score at times, so I don't mind Fleury. Logan Thompson, if you want to pay up a little bit, I think he's the expensive goalie I like most here tonight, especially considering how the Rangers nuked their lines. Don't mind Carter Hart for cheap either. We just saw Washington put up a ton of shots on Stuart Skinner and only put up 3 goals. I think the Flyers are kind of in the same defensive boat as the Oilers, so I don't mind Hart for cheap either. I'll mention Spencer Martin on FanDuel. He's still got a pretty cheap price over on FanDuel for the Canucks.
Yeah, I think I like Ullmark. I have shot volume concerns there. There is possibly some shutout upside, so I don't mind him if you're spending up either, but I agree with what you just said. Who are you liking for the hat trick pick?
I'm going to go from a team that we just talked about. Maybe a little bit chalk, but he had one, 6 or 7 games ago. Hopefully he can do it again. Timo Meier.
I'm going a little young stud here. I'm going Dylan Cousins.
He was the second guy I had on my list. So it's nice that we're kind of on the same wavelength here.
Yep. Remember, smash that like. We like likes. For Cliffy, I am your host, Joshua. We will be, wow, my head's off the screen. It's so big. Well, we will be back tomorrow. We're on every day this week. Click the link in the description to sign up for BetMGM and get 2 free months of Stokastic. Coming up after us at 4:45, we have NBA Deeper Dive with Greg and Adam, then NBA Live before lock at 6:30 with Josh, Engelman, and Eric. We'll see you tomorrow. Good luck, everybody.
Good luck, everyone.